Today we are doing polynomials, linear factors, and zeros 5.2 day 2. Your learning goal is for you to be able to find the multiplicity of a zero and identify relative maximums and minimums. First, let's go over multiplicity. It's the number of times a factor appears, and it also tells us how the graph is going to behave. For example, if you see something like this, that's supposed to be a 2, you would find out what the 0 is, and then the multiplicity would be 2, because that means that it's going to appear, it appears twice. If the multiplicity is even, if you have an even multiplicity, that means that when you graph it, it's going to do what we call touch and turn. So it's gonna, it touches the x-axis and turns around. And an example of that would be something like this. So it'll touch it and turn around. That's the even multiplicity. An odd multiplicity crosses the x-axis at that particular 0. So it'll do something like this, where it actually crosses the x-axis. Let's just say it does something like that. Okay, so even multiplicities touches the x-axis and turns around, and then odd multiplicities cross the x-axis. Okay, for example 1, we're going to find the zeros of the function, and then we're going to state the multiplicity of multiple zeros. Okay, so our first example, we'll do this one. Notice if it's already factored, then what you're going to do is change this to a 0. You always do that first, and then you're going to set each factor equal to 0. That means each one. So here, if you square root both sides, x will be 0. So it'll be 0, 0 with a multiplicity of 2. This one and this one. -2, 0 and 4, 0 both have multiplicity of 1. Which means for 0, 0 at 0, 0 it's going to do a touch and turn, and -2, 0 and 4, 0 is going to actually cross it. So if we were to graph it, it would look something like this. So this one will cross. Ew. Let's try that again. This one would cross. This one will do a touch and turn, and this will be back up. So it looks something like that. Okay, so multiplicity, you just state, you set them equal to 0 first of all, if it's already factored. If it's not factored, you have to factor it first. Let's try another one. Okay, here's another example. This one is not in factor form. So I'm going to take out a GCF of x. Then, since I have a leading coefficient, I want to find two factors of -2 that add to give me, so the sum has to be +1. So the only ones that'll work would be 2 and -1. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2x squared plus 2x minus 1x minus 1. And then I'm going to do grouping. I'm just going to disregard my x that's right out here for right now. So I'm going to take out a 2x, and that's left with x plus 1. I'm going to take out a -1, and I'm going to be left with x plus 1. So my factors are 2x minus 1, x plus 1, and then my GCF, which was x. Don't forget to change those to zeros. So I'm going to say each of my factors, each one of these, equal to 0. So x equals 0, 2x minus 1 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0. So this would be 0, 0. This would be 1/2 0. And this would be -1, 0. All of these have a multiplicity of 1. Okay? So that's how you do it if it's not in factored form. Okay, for this next part, you are going to need your graphing calculators because we're going to find relative maximum minimums. Now, a relative maximum minimum is different from the vertex of a parabola because the vertex would be the greatest y value or the greatest or the smallest y value of all the x values. Well, the difference here is it's the greatest or smallest y value in the neighborhood or around the other x values that it's closer to. So it may not be like the largest y value of all for all x values. Okay, so they're going to give me an equation. And you're going to take your graphing calculator and go to y equals and type this in. And for right now, your window setting can be set to the basic standard window. And then I want you to hit graph, and we're going to see if you see this graph. What you may notice is that you can't see the top or the bottom of your graph, so you need to go to your window and change your Y max to make it a little larger than 10. So I'm going to give you a chance to do that so you can see the tip of your graph and the bottom of it. You want to make sure that you can see that relative maximum and minimum. Then you want to make sure you can see your relative minimum, so you're going to have to change your y minimum as well. And you just keep playing with the numbers until you can see it on the screen. Once you can see it, you're going to go to second trace. I'll write this over here. And you're going to hit option 4. For max, because I'm going to do the left one first. And then you'll do like we did on the previous section. You're going to move your cursor so it's on the left and hit enter, right bound and hit enter, and then guess. So let's do that now. And you should have gotten on the bottom of your screen, it'll probably say x equals negative 3.9999 repeating, which is negative 4. And then your y coordinate will probably say 80. So your relative maximum is negative 4 and 80. Okay? And then you'll do the same thing for the minimum. You're going to go second trace. And now you want option 3 for minimum. And then you need to get on the left side and the right side of your minimum. And just move your cursor, left bound, right bound, and then do guess. And then you should have gotten on the bottom of your screen, it should have said x equals 2.00000 and y equals negative 28. So it'll be 2, negative 28. So that would be your relative minimum.